Don't sow a seed, don't paint a wall. Tomorrow it will have to fall.
When I come to District 6, I feel very sore, heart sore. It makes me very sad. Our house was on that corner, the house and the shop. It was together. Go from the house into the shop, and this was inside our shop. We were the only one in Cape Town to have what they call the soda fountain. My grandfather was the first one to change the color of cream soda. You people know it as green. It was actually white like lemonade. Everybody around here, people from Bloemer Flats, people opposite here, and that time they bought on the bookie. So you used to write it down on a cigarette card. That was the bookie. This was all houses where we're standing at the moment now. People were living here. They were also forcibly removed. We took these photographs as we were driving through, and they were throwing down the buildings, the shop as well, the National Bioscope, where my grandfather used to have a flat. It's still open, vacant. I was sitting in the car. I didn't want to get out because I said, well, how was I feeling? I'll say I was angry. You look at places where they put the people like Hanover Park and Manenberg. People were quite despondent to go there because they couldn't get jobs. And it broke them down. It broke them down completely. It is difficult for me to come back here. It won't be the same because, how shall I say, they took the soul out of the place.
Working in restitution is one of the most amazing privileges. When you listen to the stories of people who have been kicked out of their houses, you have no idea the emotion that it stirs. Today, people will weep. They will sit at my table and they will weep. It is a pain that is complete. It goes down the generations. The effects of it are vast and incalculable.
I do remember every brick in this house, every one of it. Standing here, I can tell exactly where every room is in the
Which
house.
was the main bedroom, which was the lounge.
It took us 1 year to build this house.
Weekends only.
Weekends only.
I stayed here from 6 years old until the age of almost 30 years old. We had to move because of the Group Areas Act. Colours couldn't stay among the whites anymore. I remember my father getting a letter to sell the house.
My mother is actually the one who insisted my father must move because they took pressure on us. The government pressure on us to move.
The pressure was on us, you know.
Yeah. So my mother couldn't take the pressure anymore.
You know, my mother...
said to my father, look, let's just sell and move.
They were afraid they'd go to jail if they didn't sell to the government.
My father never
That was the fear
politics.
My father couldn't read and write.
Yeah.
He could read a plan to build a house.
He can never read and write.
Read and write.
This is home.
It was always home. In my heart, it's still home.
I was a student at Michaelis School of Fine Art in the 70s. I actually lived in Kenilworth, so I walked down 2nd Avenue with my Nikon, and I just stood on the corner, and then, within 5 minutes, people were saying hey, what you doing? Come here, take my picture. I think photography can be very exploitative. So what I did was to go back next week with a print and give them the print. And then I got quite well known in the area, and people used to feed me. So the more affluent people would make me these wonderful Malay dishes. And then the poorer people would give me white bread with pilchards. So I'd have a meal, and then we'd photograph. And they'd put their babies on the bed, and I'd photograph the babies. And I'd go to the next room, and there'd be a granny in the bed. And of course, this area was also, at the time, under the Group Areas Act, and people were being forcibly removed. And many of the people I met there were born in those houses. There's one particular image of an old woman with a crucifix hanging off the side of the bed who said to me, I was born in this house, I'm about to die. She was incredibly old. And maybe in a few weeks I'm going to be taken out of here. So there were those kind of things. I don't know how many years later, it was 40 years. It still cuts me up to look at those pictures. I still don't know how we deal with that pain that apartheid caused.
This is the house I was born in, number 35 Matthew Road, Claremont. We used to lend sugar. We had a warm relationship amongst our neighbors. I ended up in Mitchell's Plain, you know. Men took it very badly in a sense of, you know, when you come in a different area, especially but you don't know people, you could adapt, you could protect your family, take your wife to the bus stop, which was almost a kilometer, and you walk through dangerous areas. As a man, you couldn't also allow people to walk over you, and that's how in that areas gangsters formed. My heart was always here in Claremont, and I couldn't settle down wherever I went. I used to come every day to Claremont, walk the streets, and I'm still doing it every day, walking the streets, and memories will come back.
I got married in Simonstown at court. My husband was an atheist, he didn't want to get married in church. Living in Simonstown people were wonderful. They were very together. We could see when the fishermen are going to take fish, and the children run down to the beach, you know, and everybody knew each other. And the eviction notice arrived by some old white guy. His name was Mr. Lowe. It was a terrible day. The people was very sad when they used to see Mr. Lowe, because they knew they were going to get papers. And we also got papers, and the heartache grew and so on. The saddest part was when people were starting to move here. And one day I said to my husband, come, let's take a ride and go and see how they're getting on with the houses in Ocean View. So when we got here, these houses were all halfway built, and it was sand and it's terrible. I said, my word, are we going to live in that horrible place? But there was nothing we could do about it. And a lot of our people's furniture couldn't get into those flats. They had to chop it up. The beautiful antique things had to be thrown one side. I used to be very angry before when I started writing. The poem was Fall Tomorrow. Don't sow a seed, don't paint a wall. Tomorrow it will have to fall. Let the dog bark. Tomorrow he will sleep in the dark. Let the cock crow. Let the hen lay. Tomorrow will be their last day. Let the children chop trees. Let them break. Let the destructive little devils ruin and take. For tomorrow they know not their fate. Don't sow a seed, don't paint a wall. Tomorrow the yellow monster will take all. Let our sons dazed in eye, rape and steal, for they are not allowed to feel. Let the men drink, let them fight, let what is said about them be right, for they are not allowed to think. So bark, howl, crow, chop, break, ruin, steal, drink, fight, let's what said about us be right. Tomorrow we gaze at a new view, seas of sand given by you, and we say, sow the seed, paint the wall, be at home in our desert for all. You that remade us, your mold will break, and tomorrow you are going to fall.
The reality is people don't only need to get their piece of land back or a title deed or financial compensation. They need psychological help. You can't replace where they would have been had they been left alone. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that the people of the Western Cape, and it is true for the people of the country, that there is a profound sense of loss, a deep, profound depression.
For my mom especially, it was very traumatic. When she died, people supposed to call the matriarch of District 6. Because she knew, like most people, I mean, that she was, when my mom died, she was 99 years old and 3 months. And so because she knew practically everybody in District 6. And we were very much part of St. Mark's Church. We had a community, this big community center. And I always said, I wish we could just have picked it up that community centre and had planted in Hanover Park, we wouldn't have had half of the things that's going on there, Now, our block of sub-economic flats was in a no man's land between, what's this gang's name, the Americans on our side and the ghettos on the other side. So I thought, my heart loops to see this until we ran, because they were just... And how many times didn't we lie flat? And we were upstairs. We used to lie flat. So it was horrific. So when this opportunity came, thank God for this, we went for it.
District 6 is a strange phenomenon in the city. It is all present, such a visceral scar on the landscape. And at the same time, in a way, nobody knows what's going on. Everyone agrees that the potential is incalculable given its location and its cultural and symbolic significance. And so for a city like Cape Town that is so marked by profound racial abuse, poverty, to have this incredible opportunity and resource right in front of our face and not be able to activate it, it really, really captures the impotence, if you will, of both public policy and public life.
The District 6 community, when people speak about 60,000 people being forcibly removed, and the fact that only 2,400 families are coming back, you really begin to understand the scale of returns, that it's not a simple process of people just making a decision that because they were moved off their land, that they're now coming back.
I hear often, in fact last week again, I heard that Cape Town is the most segregated city in South Africa. I agree, but I agree with an explanation. When I compare Cape Town to Johannesburg, where I've moved, most people in Johannesburg are Johnny-come-latelys. Cape Town, the people in Mitchell's Plain that I know of, many of them don't want to move because they have established family ties, the mosque, the schools, the community. It suits them.
People have made very active decisions about whether or not they should come back, where you're now leaving a community that you were in for almost 40 years.
You just have to have proof. And they go to Matrix House in Strand Street. And I said, boy, oh boy, did we have proof. My ma had niks weggegooi nie. She had insurance policies the size of road maps and all the receipts and clinic cards. And of course, the very next day we were up there.
The museum actually played a very important role in providing just the fabric of the museum as evidence itself of the community that actually lived in the area. And people would use sources that they found at the museum to create the affidavit to prove that they lived in District 6 as well.
I was born here in District 6 in Stakare Street. The process of return was very hectic. It took a long time.
9 years we were part of the actual process.
We're looking upon the government. What is the government going to do? Is it really going to build houses for us?
In 2004, the first few families, the 24 families, moved into District 6. They were part of the Phase 1 redevelopment. The Phase 2 redevelopment ended in 2014 with about 134 homes.
We were grateful for the opportunity to return.
We are from the first 24 that came into District 6. And we are still here.
There's been quite a lot of joy, but also I think a bittersweet feeling about coming back, make a new home in a very different space in District 6.
I think the community here is divided. I don't see their children coming to my school. They go to better schools. They don't see me as a better person. The story of being black in District 6 is never been heard. As I look at the picture of District 6, I see now it's based on one race, the colored people. Most of the black people, they are still stuck in Kukuletu, in Langa, in Nyanga, in most places they are still crying to come back to District 6 because their stories are not heard.
Before the government's decision to reopen the land claims, I was getting probably 20 telephone calls a day from people who were desperately trying to splice themselves onto somebody else's claim. So the reopening of the land claims, I have no doubt in my mind, was a necessary intervention by government.
I think the process has become a much more technical process because you literally have to become a researcher, sourcing documents from the Ruland Street Archive, City Council, and people either don't have the time, they don't have the mobility, but very determined to find that evidence.
Now we have a mobile bus that has officers in it that will go to the remotest areas in the Western Cape and make sure that people on farms, people who have no access to any kind of technology, will be able to there and then lodge their land claim.
When people who come from other areas of removal, whether it's Simonstown, Harfield, Newlands, if you are talking about a concept of return, it's almost like you're talking about a brick wall, because you may institute a land claim, but where are you going to go back to?
House with a green roof. That used to be our house.
I lived in Lincoln Street, number 10. That's Veronica, that's me.
Memories. I was just saying to my wife when we passed here, that stoop I used to polish every Friday for my pocket money. Just chatting about days gone by and what we did, what happened, and just mind the residents, we don't offend them. We might be standing on the ground here.
And it's when I really begin to see a real lack in how we deal with restitution in the country generally, is that you cannot account for the fact that new people are living in these homes.
I was born in First Avenue, Claremont. I was born in a house called Mount View.
This is Mount View. This is the house that I was born in with my 6 siblings. We were all born here.
Everything was local. Local schools, local churches. We married the local girls.
These were my neighbors. It was Mrs. Adams. Mrs. Wilmot lived there. This here was a sweet shop.
We were politicized at home. We were politicized in our community. We always believed we have the right to choose where we wish to stay. And this is what we struggled for all our lives. My sister Lorena bought a house in Surrey Street, Claremont.
That was the nicest 5 years of my life. It was absolutely wonderful going back and living in Harfield again. But it was not one of the repossessed houses, because on principle we would never have bought a repossessed house. It is more beautiful, but there is no more atmosphere.
Unfortunately, I do not know the neighbors here. I spent 5 years here, and only one lady who lived in the front house, we became friends.
I always get excited when I pass Mount View because I had so many happy memories.
They said there were no forced removals from this area. It's a white gentleman who opened the door. He would not allow me to come in. And his wife said that nobody was forced to be removed from this area. I told him that I was forced from this very house, but they would not let us come in to have a look.
If you were, for example, if you were kicked out of Newlands and your furniture was left standing in the house and the new owners took it over, I would demand that I would return to the same house with that same furniture. And I think when people make that demand, the response from the state, the response from landowners who live there now, it's completely lacking. And I think that the responsibility for creating that space where people then are able to make that demand, you're able to have a discussion about what it means, whether it's possible, impossible, that space doesn't exist.
I found it rather ridiculous and very amusing that they can be so unenlightened.
It seems to me that white people in Cape Town, by and large, are completely underexposed to the realities of life in a township. They have no understanding of it, no sympathy for it whatsoever.
It could just be to appease their conscience, because by admitting that this was a place where people were forced, they're admitting that they benefited by it because they paid such little for these homes.
I was very well aware of the history of the area when I bought my house. And in fact, I've always considered there might be a land claim. It's been in my mind since the day I bought this house. I think there are more people that are aware of this than one presumes, especially white people. So let's get down to the basics. In fact, I know a lot of people in the area. We pretty much all hang out in the same group here. A lot of people I know are aware of the history of the area. There has no doubt been a high spike in crime in the area. And in fact, it was towards the end of last year, there was a woman in the end of the house, there was a guy in her house, and I could hear her screaming from here, which obviously, unfortunately, one becomes more fearful. There's a Harfield Village Facebook page, and people were commenting on crime and pointing out people they believed were suspicious. There are 3 people lying on the pavement and we should just tar over them. Horrible, shocking. And people go onto Facebook and they make comments that are probably not what they would normally say. Now, how can you say everybody's racist based on a few people's comments? How can you judge a whole area? You can't do that. Nobody's been interviewed, non-white person, that does live in the area and what their experiences are. Because I can tell you most of the people that I know don't find it a racial area.
So I'm back in Claremont at 50 Matthew Road now. I inherited this house now where I am now. It's a miracle. I didn't know if I'll end up one day here, but my desire was to come back. And it was given to me. I feel sometimes very out of place. Yes, I had a couple of bad experiences, such as people wouldn't greet me. They make remarks. What are they doing here? But they don't know the history about this place. I was born here. They took us forcibly and removed us from here. So they don't know nothing. But they look us into our eyes in a different way, color-wise.
I've always believed that if there's ever going to be a real crisis in this country, it will start here, because this is where the things are so extreme. Restitution shouldn't be seen by the people of Constantia as a threat. They could see it as normalizing a profoundly abnormal society. I think that they would begin to have some kind of understanding of their own lack.
You know, this used to be our main bedroom. That used to be our lounge. Another bedroom next to it. There's still a fireplace in that room there. Yes.
After how many years?
Wow.
This was down here. This was dining room. This was a bedroom.
This was all kitchen.
Yeah, the whole thing was a kitchen.
This was my room. Thank you for letting us. Thank you, sir. Yes, I'm actually emotional. It breaks my heart to stand in front of this.
I was so happy to be in here. True?
I can't. I'm sorry.
What can I say? I'm comfortable. You know, I'm living with my daughter and I'm very comfortable at least.
I wouldn't mind starting all over again in this particular house and this particular area. I mean, where we're living now, we're quite comfortable. But it will never be this house. Never ever the same.
This will never come back again. Never ever.
It can happen if you give us a house back.
Yeah, I'm actually happily emotional to see that house is still standing. They didn't, demolish the house or anything. It's still here. So we would love to come back though. Anyway, thank you.
I don't think there's going back. There's only going forward. Even if people do return to the actual house that they were living in, it's still not going back. It's only going forward. We have to build a future. We can't rebuild a past.
I always expected a knock on my door. And I quite honestly would love to meet the people that lived here and love to hear their story. Because I think only through that kind of way of maybe healing, moving together, I know that's another debatable issue, but I think that would be the way to go.
It's a new beginning, It's for them to come to the table and sit with us and just discuss with us, finding out more about me.
Coming back to town, many people ask, was it the same? Of course it's not the same, because you've skipped a few generations. There wasn't that close community thing, but there is a connection. And I must say, our District 6 Forum, in my eyes, they are trying their best to form that community spirit.
The political seeds of Harfield Road still exist. We have a great feeling of having overcome apartheid. So we don't dwell on the negative aspects of apartheid. We celebrate the fact that we have destroyed and we have survived and we have excelled despite apartheid.
I think part of the public perception is that ex-residents feel they are coming back to this mythical place of District 6 that's going to look the same kinds of sounds, smells, feelings. But I think that's selling the District 6 land claimant short. It's not to relive the past in a physical way, but to relive the past in terms of a sense of community. So they understand that in forging bonds with each other, with people they might not know, that they're recreating the spirit of District 6. And that is always what the struggle for District 6 has been. Even though you demolish the area, the spirit of District 6 remains, and that is what we maintain, and that is what we are building for our descendants.